shit.
All right.
Okay, it's only going to go on. Okay, it looks like we're live. Apologies, everyone. I was having a little malfunction there and a little fight with the system to say it's not live on Facebook. Go, go, go. It turns out I was just being a plonker. So there we go. So anyway, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the third in a series or episode of our little mini docu-series talking about our acquisition of Expandly and how we're adapting it, tweaking it, changing it, adding a bit of love here, adding a bit of love there, and moving it and adapting it to what we need. I've got an esteemed guest with me who I will introduce in just a moment. But I just want to capture what we've done over the last 2 weeks. So if you've missed the last couple of weeks, the first week we talked about how we look for acquisitions, how we found Expandly as an acquisition, and the process we went through to actually acquire the business. Last week, we gave you a very snippet demo of what Expandly 1.0 does. What does the software currently do? And we looked at the inventory management, the listing management, order management, the reports, and the zero accounting piece. And we gave you a little in-depth demo, if you like, of that piece. And today we're moving on to, okay, we've acquired the business. We now know what it does and what was the process we go through in order to make those things work. And I'm going to come on to that in a moment. But first of all, let's introduce Anthony Willis. Anthony, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's not get your hopes up too much. But yeah, hopefully we'll entertain you for the next half an hour or so. So, and just tell people where you're currently based and what you do.
Yep. So currently based in the GEHQ down in Southampton. Not so sunny Southampton at the moment, but there you go. Yeah, and I head up our kind of growth team, so I look after customer services, and part of that is to look after the Expandly team as well. So I've been heavily involved in the acquisition, which has been great.
Nice. Okay. Well, and thank you very much for joining us. For those that are looking at and thinking, are you sure you're in Southampton? Because the picture behind looks a little bit better than it does in Southampton. I can assure you that is not the view from our office window. That is just a sticker on the wall because we all liked the looking at Canada. Basically, we're all incredibly jealous to our Canadian colleagues, partners, and clients that they get a view like that every day. And the good news is for me, and I get to look at it while I'm looking at you. So there's good news.
Yeah.
So we're in the same office. We're just in different rooms, just to make that easy. I've just got a plain white wall, and clearly upgraded that office to a slightly better view than what I've got on my wall. But anyway, there we go. So let's get on and talk about what we actually came here to talk about. Let's talk about the acquisition. So we've acquired a business, and when you acquire a business, you need to integrate it in one way, form, or another. Now, before you do that acquisition, you sort of need to have an idea in your head what you're going to do with the business to make sure that it makes sense. Now, we talked about that in episode 1, so I'm not going to re-go through that. But we identified that this would be a good solution for us. We identified that it has got the right clients, it's the right mix, the culture fits the right fit, and there was lots of other things that were really, really positive about it. So what happens is you acquire a business, and to be honest, on day one, we're like, okay, do we own this business yet? It's a bit like buying a house where you complete, you exchange contracts, you do all those things, except you don't get any keys because there's no keys to hand over, I guess, unless you've bought a business and you walk through the door. But for a software business where people are working remotely, that doesn't happen. So take over the business, and then you're like, right, we're now responsible for these people and this business, and right, what are we going to do? So the first thing that we did, and I should probably just backtrack a little bit here. I've acquired businesses in the past. I acquired a IT software, IT managed services business some years ago. And quite honestly, with the vision of hindsight, some of these things would be really, really useful now. So I looked at some of the acquisitions we've done in the past and realized that actually, how do we integrate those better? What works, what doesn't, what can we learn from that? I'm very big on, okay, we've done something. What do we need to learn? Comes back from my coaching days of brief task debrief. How do you debrief yourself? And one of the things I learned from the managed services business was, actually, what do we need to do to integrate this? Where's its strengths? Where's its weakness? Let's call it a SWOT analysis, for want of a better word. And where does that lie? So we came up with a process for acquisitions when we acquire them called the OATS process. Now, I'm big on acronyms because it makes our life very, very simple. And if you're going to do a sales process, it's this. If it's marketing, it's this. If it's whatever, you've got a simple process. So we came up with a process. Now, I'm going to be really, really bold here and tell you that I didn't design this all by myself. I basically went online one day about 2 years ago and went, how do I integrate much better for an acquisition we do? And I found some bits online, and basically I stole all the bits I liked, worked out what was working. This is perhaps before the Chat GPT days, because I expect now I might be able to use Chat GPT and say, how do I integrate a business? Give me a process for that. I don't know what that would look like, but this is what ours looks like. And we use an OATS process. So we observe, we assess, we track, and we shift. Now, it depends on the business. It's going to depend on whether that's over a week or 3 months or 6 months. So Ant has been fully involved in this with the Expandly, and hence why he's here. So, Ant, let's talk about observe first. The observe piece is literally what it says on the tin, isn't it? It's observing. So you talk about what your thought process was from an Expandly point of view when you started the observe phase.
Yeah, so it was literally just kind of observing from a distance. There are certain things that we wanted to look at as well. So, we want to introduce the team. We want to kind of make sure that they feel like they're part of a wider team. So we kind of did that in the observe phase as well. So then we'd sit back and we'd look at what are the current KPIs, what are the current objectives of the business, how are we tracking towards them, and then we'd kind of go in a little bit deeper about what other softwares is this company using? How can we integrate that software into ours? I think that there's going to be similarities between the softwares that we're using, and we don't really want to be paying for those twice, as an example. So those are the kind of things that we want to kind of look at nice and early, just to try and make sure that we're not overspending at the very start. So that kind of bit was really important. Getting the Expandly team fully integrated into the GE team, essentially. So that was quite tricky. Obviously, a lot of our staff of global e-commerce experts are office based in Southampton or in and around Southampton. The Expandly team are all based in Milton Keynes, so it's not really fair to get them down to the office for 5 days a week. So that was quite tricky. We managed to get them down for a few days over the course of a few weeks to really embed them into the team and just make them feel part of the family. But also, getting them to learn about our business. Global e-commerce experts is a tricky business because we offer such a plethora of different services. Mm-hmm. So it was about, really kind of trying to get them to embed and understand what it is that we do. Other than that,
that's a really good point there, that, we're observing what's going on, but at the same time, we're looking to make sure that they understand our business as well. Because we were talking about this as, okay, this is what we're doing. We're observing that business and we want to integrate them and everything else, but making sure they actually fully understand what we do from an integration. That process goes both ways. Making sure everyone understands what everyone's doing is really, really key. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off there. I like that point. I thought.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. It was, and then we look at like basic level things like social media logins and making sure that we've got all the right logins for all the right pieces of software, so that we can, kind of observe what it is we're using these pieces of software for, and what the ROI is on those pieces of software as well. So that was really important. Looking at the kind of
Yep.
marketing strategies, how are they marketing the products, how are they getting their name out there, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, there was an awful lot of work to be done in that kind of observe phase.
Yeah, nice, because I think that observe phase is literally, and with expanding, I think it's fair to say here that that we acquired the business, but it wasn't in the most profitable state. So there was a lot we needed to do quite drastically, quite quickly, to turn around the numbers from essentially being loss making to profit making. So, while some of the things we're going to talk about, you might spend over a longer period of time. I think the great one there, Ant talked about, looking at what software was duplicated. We had Zendesk in not money, wasn't it?
Yes. Sorry, you cut out a bit there, Andy.
You there? I said
Yeah.
the Zendesk was pretty expensive.
Yeah, so we had Zendesk.
Any idea what it was? Can you remember?
We used Zoho for the
Yep. Yeah, quite right.
yeah. So we had Zendesk running alongside Zoho Desk for quite a few months. Obviously the problem that we encountered was that some of these are contracted, so there were 12-month contracts. So we had to kind of suck that up for a little while, and just kind of manage that over that period of time. But again, it was the observe phase was looking into, okay, when do these contracts end? What do we need to do to migrate that information out of one place into another, and what impact is that going to have on the business? So that was really interesting. I think HubSpot was the best example. I think we were paying £900 a month or something for a CRM piece of software, which in the end we were able to migrate really nice and easily into our own CRM. So we were able to make a saving there.
I think that's really important. That there's two great examples there with the Zendesk and the HubSpot, where we were saving $1,500, $2,000 a month pretty much overnight. We had to wait for contracts to end and things like that. So there is now because we acquired the assets of the business, we could probably have got out of those contracts earlier. But I'm in the process of believing that you should be fair and responsible with what you're doing in a business. And just because the assets have changed and a new business has taken over doesn't mean you need to screw people over for the sake of screwing people over when there's a sake of a few months of a contract left. I think that's really, really important. Yeah. Okay, nice. So, and we've gone through the observe phase. We're observing what's going on. We're looking at the team. We're looking at where people perform, where people don't perform. We're looking at the strengths of the business. We're looking at what the marketing, the sales looks like, and things like that. And we're getting a good understanding, aren't we? We then move into the assess stage, right? So we've observed what's going on, and now we've got to ultimately assess how effective that is, on what the strengths are, and whether we need to keep them. I guess, take the HubSpot, for example. I guess in the assess stage, we assessed that we didn't need, but we did that in the observe stage because it was quite clinical straight away. But sort of that assess stage, what were your sort of thoughts with Expandly? What were you really looking to assess within the business?
So moving into the assess stage, we're looking more at the kind of financial aspect of the business itself. So how are the current Expandly users being charged? What does that, how does that look? And how scalable is that across the moving forward? I think we found pretty quickly that there wasn't really a structure behind how current Expandly clients were being charged and what their billing cycle was. So we ended up with people on lifelong discounts and packages that weren't aligned with what was currently being offered. we realised that some people had been using Expandly for 7 or 8 years, and that the price of the subscription had never increased, which obviously from a user perspective is wonderful, but from a business perspective it makes it quite tricky with the increasing costs of servers and all the other things that come with a software company. So what we did there, we essentially created new pricing structure, which we quickly realised was an awful lot more than a lot of people were paying. So Andy kindly saw the value in the current expanded clients and looking to kind of keep hold of those clients, and we offered them a really cracking deal on their current package, which essentially meant that we could put everybody onto the same level of package. We just offered a lifelong discount to the existing expanded clients.
I think that's a really important piece there, because no one wants to put costs up, but when you actually look at the base, the customer base versus the cost to run the business, actually that they just didn't marry. That just didn't work. These lifetime £20 a month just don't work, unfortunately. You need to run a business based on being able to run a business, and you can't run a business and you give the product away for free. When we and transparently, openly, when we looked at that, that was our turnover increased by 25%, but we lost 40% of the clients as a give or take, right? So we're serving less clients, but we are literally just getting rid of the clients that are just not using the software, and so we can really focus on giving value to the clients that you do actually want to use it and are happy to help us to invest in the product to make it work better. I think that's really important to say. We don't want to put the prices up, but you've got to look at the product as a business and identify that actually this really does need to be a little bit higher than what it is. I mean, you're right. We still gave them a legacy discount on the pricing. There was still a legacy discount that was 50% of the prices. So we did do that. Ultimately, we did put the prices up as well. We put the prices up and made all those things work. Okay, nice. So we've assessed a lot of those things, Ant. We've assessed where we are. Presumably, we assessed KPIs and the performance of the team and the performance of the business as a whole. Would that be fair?
Yeah. So we did a bit of a SWOT analysis, which was quite interesting because that really highlighted what the company does, what services it offers, where can we make improvements to the business. The other thing we did is we reached out to a handful of in fact, we reached out to all of the current Expandly users. I spent time speaking to each and every current Expandly user that we could get hold of, and talk through what they like, what they don't like so much, and did a general kind of SWOT analysis based on that information. And that was really interesting. What came from it was that the actual functionality of the software was great, and there weren't too many complaints around that. But the actual kind of look and feel of the product, it kind of it felt clunky. So that kind of gave us some really good insight into what we might focus on first.
Yeah, nice. Because that comes to we've got the track and shift, and we'll come back to the shift piece because so we spent a bit of time observing and assessing, and then we got to this track thing. So we're actually tracking what the team are doing and what those KPIs look like, and tracking the development of the software and so on. So what were the things you were looking at there?
So obviously tickets that were being raised, support desk tickets that were being raised through the system. That was really important because that was the kind of customer's view on what was going on, and it really highlighted the bits that were going wrong. So obviously, as part of the acquisition, we inherited a development team, and it was really interesting to see what those guys were having to do on a day-to-day basis. Little daily fixes that you don't really think of in when you kind of first acquire a company like this. But there were lots of little things that were going wrong that could, what development's like. It can take a week, one developer a week to fix one small problem. So that was really interesting, looking at how we measuring this. What are the steps to resolution, and what are the kind of targets as well? How quickly do we look to resolve this? How often do we contact the client to sort of talk to them about how quickly these things can be resolved?
Do you know what? That's a really interesting point for those listening from a business perspective. We acquired the business. We're going to talk next in a couple of weeks' time about the realization that we're now a software business as opposed to a service business. And I don't want to steal the thunder from that in a couple of weeks' time, but the thing you picked up there, where we've got this software development team, and I like, and Ant will be able to back this up. I'm relatively impatient with some of the stuff of, okay, well, it's just a quick fix. Well, a quick fix to me is it takes 10 minutes to just go like this and solve the problem. Well, a quick fix to a developer is like a week. And I'm like, no. I'm just an entrepreneur, business owner that just wants stuff to get done. And that has definitely been an education and learning point for me to understand, okay, well, how long does this stuff take? What is the expectation of that? How do we understand those expectations right from the beginning so that we can manage expectations with the client, internally, different stakeholders, and really actually support those members of the team? Because I'm like, well, it's a quick fix. We'll just get on with it and do it. Why can't it be done now? Like, where is it? What does that look like? I know, Andy, it'll take a little bit longer. So anyone listening, and we'll come on to that realization, but from a business, and it's all very well me coaching myself right now, but that's not always the way, is it, Anne? But we could talk about that in a couple of weeks in more detail, so don't miss that one. All right, let's talk about the shift, and I don't want to get into where we're going with the product next. I just want to talk about from a business side, some of the things that we shifted and changed, because next week we're going to lead into the realization that we wanted to change the software. So part of shift, open, this is no secret. We decided we wanted to change the software. I don't want to bring that too much into this one because we'll talk about that next week. But if we think about some of the other things that we shifted away from and changed, what were the sort of key things you think that we looked at and thought, okay, well, we've observed, assessed, and tracked these. Okay, let's make some changes. Let's shift away from that and change those.
Yeah, it was mainly the software that was being used by that, where there were sort of big crossovers between the two businesses. And it was quite interesting because I kind of went into this thinking, well, we'll just get rid of everything that Expandly use, and we'll just get them to use the stuff that we're already using, because that made most sense. But actually, when you in that observe phase, you start to look at things and think, actually, that piece of software is really good, and it might be better than the piece that we're already using. So there was a big piece of work there to actually properly assess those, and what would the impact be of not using that piece and using that piece. So that's
interesting, isn't it? Because when you start thinking about different pieces of software, I've definitely found this in the past, and obviously with this one as well, of, okay, well, we're taking it over. Well, I mean, their systems or processes, their software may be better than the ones you've already got. So it's not about them using ours. It might be about us using theirs as a shift. It's not a shift in one direction. It's a shift in both directions. So yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Sorry, go on, carry on.
Yeah, and a great example of that is the knowledge base that sits within Expandly, that was built by the team, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, I thought that our knowledge base was pretty good, but actually, when we kind of went through and looked at the knowledge base that sits in the kind of client facing knowledge base that sits in Expandly, it was just completely faultless. So that was, again, a huge piece of work there. And poor old Tony that you had on last week got this kind of, that's amazing, really well done. Can you move all of this stuff into that format? So yeah, but you know, we've done an amazing job at that, and that's now, you know, part of the GE process that we've kind of taken on. So that was, you know, yeah, as you say, it was just about kind of comparing the two and seeing what bits we can use and what bits we can, you know, what bits we can change.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really important. I like that we could then just add our own. Hey, I like what you did there. Can we just? Yeah. I think that's really powerful. You know, giving the ability, and actually, what that does is it gives some empowerment into those teams. So, hey, you've done a really great job over here. Can we copy that? You know, and actually, when you start talking about integrating the teams, it's not a okay. We've acquired you, and you know we know best, and we're this and we're that. It's hey, you've got some really cool stuff over there. Can we have that as well, please? Like, I think that's really
Yeah.
powerful. So yeah, I think, you know, looking at how you're shifting in both directions is really, really powerful. You know, obviously we're going to be shifting the software, and we'll talk about that on the next one. So, and overall, that whole process, what do you think you know, if you was to summarize the process, that OATS process, you know, what would you how would you describe it?
So I would describe the OATS process as a bit of a foolproof way of making sure that everything is covered. That's what it does. It makes sure that it's really easy when you get your new toy. You just want to go and play with it, right? And I think what the OATS process does is, because there's a physical process behind it, it stops you from kind of jumping to the good bits. If you know, like it was quite, you know, we've had lots of conversations when we sort of knew that this might be happening, and it was like it's happening next week, and then, you know, 6 months later it still hadn't happened. So we'd had loads of time to kind of talk about all the things that we really wanted to do and what we wanted to achieve with the software. And I think what this does is it kind of keeps you focused on, okay, we're in this phase at the moment, so forget all that, let's just keep focused on this bit. And it just made sure that we you know, got through the acquisition and integrated everything properly.
Yeah, nice. What I would say is, if anyone's interested in what that OATS process looks like, we've got the OATS process written down, and then we've got a whole load of subsections on everything else in between that. On, okay, these are things you need to be looking for. This is what you should be checking. These are some of the things. Now, obviously, we've made that appropriate to us, and you can. But if anyone wants that, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and just say, hey, watch your video. Can I get a copy of your OATS process, please? Happy to send you a PDF copy of that. It will take me 20 seconds. No drama whatsoever. Happy to help. And if it helps you with one of your integrations, then brilliant. It would also work, interestingly, if you were looking to carve out or separate different services. If I think about the different services of our businesses, actually, you know, if we wanted to integrate them better or in a different way, actually, we could probably use the OATS process for each part of the business to then pull them together. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
But anyway, we're self-coaching again here. That's all good news. And look, appreciate your time. Next week, we're going to be talking about how we came up with the design. I don't know if you're going to be involved in that. I haven't got that far, if I'm completely honest with you. But if you're free next Wednesday, you might be in the hot seat again.
All right.
So thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated. If you are an e-commerce seller, e-commerce account management agency, if you are involved in e-commerce at all, and you're thinking, this Expandy thing that does this inventory management, listing management, and accounting all sort of put into one, and you're thinking, where is all this going? Like, they've done this, they've talked about what it currently does. Where are they taking this software? What does that look like? You know, make sure you join up to the waiting list. People on the waiting list will get, let's call it, early bird offers. They will get the beta testing. They will get the ability to be on the as part of the initial part of the expanders group. And I think that's really, really important and powerful, that if you want to be a founding member of the expanders, if you want to get the best prices, early bird prices when we launch this and get the beta testing, then you need to join the waiting list. Only people on the waiting list will get that. It's running through the ticker at the bottom, but it go to expandly.com/2.0, 2-O- waitlist, and you'll be able to get on to sign up to the waiting list there. And any last comments for the wonderful people that have taken their valuable time to listen to us today?
Apart from, make sure you tune in next week because there is some properly exciting stuff coming up that I know about.
Excellent. And appreciate time. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you on next week's episode of the Expandly Journey. Thank you very much. Cheers, Ant.
Cheers.